welcome to this edition of Inside Government. On this edition of Inside Government, we will be speaking with Mr. Jeffrey Greenip from the Enrollment Advisory Group, who represents 6 educational institutions that includes the Nova Southeastern University. Mr. Greenip is on the island for the Career and Study Fair 2019. Southeastern University is one of the universities which form part of the MOU with the Ministry of Education here in St. Martin. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome my guest. Mr. Greenip, welcome to this edition of Inside Government.
Thank you, Charity. It's wonderful to be here, and the island is beautiful as always.
Good. Happy to have you. How is everything over at the Southern University?
Nova Southeast University is doing phenomenal. It's about 50 years old. It's in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It's a research institution. We signed the MOU with the government of St. Martin Study Finance about 2 years ago. After a long trip, Mr. Martinborough had been trying to sign Nova for many years, and finally we got it done after the formation of Enrollment Advisory Group.
Home base, you just mentioned. Home base for the Southeastern University.
Yes, and NSU is in Davie, Florida, which is really right next to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It's about 10 minutes west of the airport in Fort Lauderdale, about 25 minutes north of Miami. So most people from St. Martin visit and know their way around pretty well.
Sort of like a second vacation spot for
yes.
us. But this time we're talking education base. Why would you say the Southeastern University would be like one of the most to-go spots then for students, or why would you recommend the university?
Nova has always been a great doctoral institution. Undergraduate has been up and coming over the last decade. And it's primarily health sciences, bio, big business school. There's in the doctoral programs, they have dentistry, they have law, they have medicine. So there's a lot of offerings for students, especially on the priority list in the government of St. Martin. A lot of good opportunity for students to come close to home, but to get what the government of St. Martin needs and come back and be contributing members of the St. Martin.
Now we're mentioning St. Martin students right now, currently at the university. Where do some of the students hail from?
Right now, our biggest students from the last 2 years, again, it's a new MOU, but Learning Unlimited, CIA, St. Dominic's are all schools that represent students who attend Nova.
And the partnership you said between the MOU with St. Martin and also the Nova Southeastern University.
Basically, what the MOU is study financing offers $15,000 to students as an application process and a deadline, and then Nova matches up to $10,000 of that. So a student who is awarded study finance, regardless of their other scholarship at Nova, if they were only eligible for 5, it goes to 10. Okay. If it was 10, it stays. If they were eligible for 15, it would stay at the 15. So they could, in essence, receive $15,000 from the government of St. Martin, $15,000 from Nova, about $30,000. But the MOU is written to guarantee every student 10 from Nova who receives study finance, so a total of $25,000.
Wow. Walk me through, if I am trying to figure out how it all embodies the campus. What is it like to be on the grounds over in Florida at that university?
It's beautiful. It's 314 acres of land. It actually has a pre-K through 12 school that is a secondary school, private school that students can go through. So that's on campus. Then the undergraduate program has about 4,000 students on the undergraduate. Brand new 780-bed dormitory, palm trees, sprawling land, wow. Lakes and ponds and shuttles that drive the students all throughout the campus. Mm-hmm. And then for graduate school, there's another 13,000 graduate school students who come and go throughout the evenings. They're not living on campus full time. There are housing available for grads, but it doesn't make up the primary portion of the campus.
All right. And you would say for enrollment, the process of enrollment.
The application, the priority deadline is still open. It was November 1st, but they can still apply. That's the fair timing of St. Martin's Fair this year is perfect. We'll extend it through my return back home next week, so a student can still apply. We do have an application process. They would just upload their transcripts. If they've taken SATs or ACTs, they would upload those as well, 2 letters of recommendation. Right. And then they would fill out, ultimately, the most important thing is the study finance scholarship
out the way,
opportunity
yeah.
here, and they have to do that if they need the money. There are students who don't need the money, and they don't receive the scholarship. They can still make it happen, but both applications really should be happening at the same
How
time.
long is the study, the time frame? for
4 years.
scholarship?
All of the students are eligible for 4 years. Nova doesn't take much longer for a student to graduate. Some schools in the U.S. it takes a little longer, but most of our students graduate within the 4-year time frame.
And what about you, Mr. Greenip? Were you also a student?
I was
At that
not
university?
I was not at Nova. I basically was at Johnson Wales University, which is a really big institution and have been coming to St. Martin for 20 years.
Right.
A lot of the people here, we had a campus here about 25 years ago. I left there about 5 years ago, and then 3 years ago, I started the Enrollment Advisory Group, which is a group of about 11 people who help institutions both recruit international and domestic students, but international is really our focus.
Right.
We've signed 6 other institutions in the United States. The MOU with the government is with Nova and Concord University. We are Concord University is a state school in West Virginia, a little less expensive, so it works for the students from St. Martin. We will be signing. We signed Montserrat College of Art, which has a great graphic design and some art photography, and that's up and coming back on the island. So we think that MOU will go through. It's a moderately priced institution just north of Boston.
Okay.
We have Manhattan College right outside of New York City, so it's a big draw for people who want to be in New York.
Yeah.
It's in Riverdale, the Bronx of New York, but it's right there, 10-minute subway ride, and you're in the city. It's a religious-based institution, so it's popular amongst people who like Catholic schools or
Yeah.
Christian Brothers schools. University of Bridgeport is probably our newest client. That's about an hour and a half north of Manhattan in Connecticut. Has a really large international population, so we look forward to signing them as well.
Great.
Our last institution in the States is University of Advancing Technology in Tempe, Arizona. It's a 100% STEM program. They do artificial intelligence, gaming, virtual reality. So for the right student, it's an interesting school, but you have to really want to, A, be in Arizona, and B, be 100% engulfed in technology. They don't have any liberal arts, no biology,
Right.
no psychology, none
Yeah.
of that is there. And then ultimately, for J&W, I could not have, after spending my whole career at Culinary and Hospitality School, graduate of a Culinary and Hospitality School as well. We went and we teamed up with Swiss Education Group in Switzerland, which is a Culinary and Hospitality School, beautiful in Switzerland. So students have a lot of options, and again, all the MOUs, I'm working with the government to eventually have agreements with all of our partner schools.
You're responsible for a lot.
I am.
And you also have to continue following up to see how the students are going in order to continue enrollment of new students, correct?
Yes, we track students all through graduation. So, a lot of people who recruit really care about the admissions
Yeah.
portion of the institution. And as a company, we're founded as we are vested through their whole 4-year experience. Even if we could have them enter into graduate school, we're still with them. Parents still talk to us all the time as students go through the
Good.
process. So it's more than just that year leading or 2 years leading up to school. It's
It's still continue.
all 4 years.
Oh, yes, wonderful. Also, Mr. Greenip, when it comes to the body of people who you also work with, like right now you'll be attending the study fair. Who else is going to be joining you?
Tomorrow, last year there was about 30 to 40 schools at the fair. A good portion from Florida, but there's schools from Ohio, schools from all up and down the East Coast and the West Coast of the United States. So it's a good cross section. We travel together. We were in Jamaica and Bahamas last week, so most of us know each other.
Yeah.
So people come all the time. Architecture is one program I don't have at any of my schools, so we know which schools have them. So
Who you can
it's
contact.
a team, yeah. And who's ever in that room, if they're in the room, great. If they're not, we can guide students.
Yeah.
So what students should feel is comfortable to go to any table and ask any question. Most of them come asking about how much does it cost, are there scholarships, what are the requirements to get in, and those are all great questions. But to me, it's about the fit.
Yeah.
Am I going to fit there? How many international students are there? How are international students
What
treated?
works for you?
Right, and that's what the students should really ask. And then the program of study is key.
Yeah.
And that's where it's up to each individual college to either give guidance and say, oh, this is a good school for you to go to, if not mine. and that's what I like about having a portfolio of schools,
to walk
rather
with.
than one, is students have a lot of options.
Right. You've seen many students geared towards which stream in university of furthering their studies so far?
Right now, marine biology, engineering are all, in my mind, the
Yeah.
top. I mean, tech used to be. It's, the web design is taken maybe a back seat, whereas the gaming and the gaming animation is a hot one with the design.
Right.
But most students are business, the biology to get into the health sciences. Nursing's always going to be popular.
Right.
Psychology's always going to be popular.
Hospitality.
Hospitality and culinary are on this island and where I've been in the last month. I was actually in India the 2 weeks prior to that, and it's a totally different world there. There's not much hospitality at all. But culinary is still going well. There's a lot of emphasis in the last 5 years on baking and pastry. People like the pastries and the chocolates.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's up and coming. But really, the hospitality industry here, you're rebuilding all of the hotels. I'm on my third different hotel. I've been back 4 times since the hurricane, so it's great every time I land to see
Good.
the progress the island is
and
making.
also see the students who are there.
Yeah, I'm back at Divi this trip, so I moved from hotel to hotel to see it reopen.
Wonderful.
And it's great
Any
people.
of the students which you made mention of who were former high school students here in St. Martin, are they also on this trip with you in order to encourage those other students to come and join in?
None of them came on this trip. There will be students and some alumni that do come. Last year, I did have an alumni reception for my previous institution.
Right.
So I do meet with them, but we did not bring anyone with us on this trip.
Okay. The amount of students, do you have a count of how many students are at the various universities, especially probably one that you see would be more fitting for students here in St. Martin?
Nova's, just on the MOU alone, is at 5 in the first 18 months of the MOU. So they're doing very well. Johnson Wales, which again was where I was at prior, was about 24 students a year.
Okay.
24 students total enrolled at any one time. So it was 5 or 6 a year.
Good.
So what I would think is if 5 to 10 students from St. Martin go to my schools total, that would be a good cross-section of the island going to a few different schools.
Good. You would, if you're speaking to a student right now who's approaching the table, approaching your desk at the student fair, and they were to have just say a 5-minute conversation with you, Mr. Greenip, would you then be able to pinpoint which school would fit that particular student?
I could pinpoint it by finance and by program. It's up to the student to research and figure out fit. The finances is easy, and you could get to the if they're honest and they understand, and their parents are embedded in helping.
Right.
If a student has no support from their parents, it just becomes very difficult to get an F1 visa to the United States. But if once you get past finances, and it's about the program. What are their grade levels here? Did they take SAT, ACT? What are they prepared to do?
Right.
And then it's really just about location, and I don't pinpoint location. Some people, like to be 2 plane flights away from their parents, so they feel a little more independent.
Yeah.
Some students want to be it's about a 2.5-hour flight here today, direct
Yeah.
out of Fort Lauderdale. So some like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So depending on where they want to go, everybody loves New York, and people love California.
Correct.
But those are all dreams. New York has a lot of benefits and a lot of drawbacks with the price of housing. So
Yeah.
you really have to get past the financing and the programs first.
The age group for students who would like to be enrolled to these universities.
It's undergraduate studies, so a freshman undergraduate without doing a year here at a college, mostly 17 to 19 years old is the sweet spot of the kids. Some 16s graduate a little early. Some students graduate at 17 and then they take a year. Maybe it's NEPA, maybe it's UE. It's another program, and they do it for a year just to get their academics up or to get confidence, and then they go. But it's that 17 to 19 range.
What about the students who are interested in studying over in Switzerland?
Switzerland's a neat program. It's culinary and hospitality. It's a 3-year bachelor's. They go straight through the summers. It includes all of their housing. The fees are all inclusive of their housing and their books. So it's one price. I will be going to NEPA Thursday to talk about a possible articulation agreement for their students who graduate to move on, in addition to study finance. But it's beautiful. It's really hands-on working. It's not the traditional college where you go to a classroom. These are all active hotels, active properties that are just beautiful,
Good.
high-end.
So it's more practical.
It's more
You get to see-
practical, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They get a real feel as to what it's going to be like when they have to be working under pressure.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
in that field.
In that field.
All right. Also, we made mention that you are in charge of the six, right?
Yes.
Enrollment processes. Name a few of them for us, please, or just all six one more time. to our
Again,
listeners.
Concord University, it's a state school in West Virginia, has a lot of programs, bio, business. All of our institutions, with the exception of University of Advancing Technology, have sports, active student life. University of Advancing Technology, we'll do next, is a technology school in Arizona. It's 100% focused on technology, so there's not a lot of sports and things like
Right.
that. Again, Nova Southeastern University in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, is a research-based top 200 school in the U.S.
Good.
Manhattan College in Riverdale, New York, Division I NCAA athletics, so it's the highest of our athletic teams, full student life, right on the outskirts of New York City.
Right.
University of Bridgeport is Division II athletics. Again, a big international population, a strong school for many, many years. Montserrat College of Art is our Bachelor of Fine Arts school just north of Boston. It's a great school for students who want to be in the fine arts and other things, animation. They do a lot of media, drawing, photography, things like that as well.
Right. And we also have, at present, the students who are currently studying, you said also from St. Martin, as we always like to highlight, because, hey, they're from St. Martin. And the feedback so far, and I'm sure they also communicate via email and let their fellow students who are probably somewhere else studying know of their experience over
Yes.
at Southeastern University.
Yeah, and I met, we had Mr. Martinborough and some delegates from St. Martin came. We visited Nova about a month ago and met with a student, Chad, who's on from Learning Unlimited, and he's having a great time. And they're easy to find. They're very hospitable. They'll come meet you. He met with us. We walked around the campus a little bit. So there's a lot of opportunities. And he's pretty open, so we have ways to get in touch with him and have him talk to some other students as well. It's just one of many.
Good, good, good. During the fair and also after, what do you hope to accomplish?
My goal every time I come to the fair on the island is there's a lot of students who want to go to school. Some just need some advice. Some could actually do it. So I really look at the fair as an opportunity to meet with students and their families and people from government and education.
Right.
All across and just really talk about ways that we can work together, whether it's financial, academic. How can we make, the schools specifically I work with, but any school
Yeah.
attainable, and how do we educate students from St. Martin on ongoing, and how do they make it happen?
For them, because all you want, I'm sure, is to make sure that everyone becomes a success.
Exactly, and my view has always been, if last year 50 kids went and next year it's 60, I'm going to get my share because I know my schools are good, and they all have draw. The students are happy there. So I really, want more students to go, and then however it all falls out, it's fine with me.
All
Just
right.
want more students to have access to go away to college.
All right. Mr. Greenip, the info for the site in order for, the listeners and viewers to also go to obtain more information on the schools, universities.
You could go to each of our schools directly. You don't need to go through me, or Enrollment Advisory Group is the name of my company. That's where we have a partner resources page which houses all of the information on all of our schools.
So you just heard right here on Inside Government, an interview that was conducted by my person, Charity Dunker, here at the Department of Communication, and my wonderful guest, Mr. Jeffrey Greenip. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you, Charity. It
Yes.
was wonderful.
You're most welcome, and we look forward to hearing more great things happening over at Nova Southeastern University. To our radio listeners and television viewers, also, we'd like to thank you very much for tuning in to this edition of Inside Government. If you have missed this broadcast of Inside Government, do be sure to tune in and log on to the official government website, which is at stmartingov.org. For rebroadcast, tune in and listen to St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM. On behalf of our team here at the Department of Communication, I'm Charity Dunker. Thank you for tuning in.